What's up, everybody? Couch Mills here, coming at you with a brand new Overwatch video. And in this video, we're going to talk about a lot of confirmed changes coming down the pipeline for Overwatch 2. And these are going to fundamentally change a lot of the characters you know and love, including removing Briggs' stun and changing a whole bunch of other stuff. So we need to talk about it because it's going to make some characters completely freaking busted. So we got to break it all down. But go to the GameLeap website if you want to learn how to dominate Overwatch right now with in-depth tips and tricks and VODs and advanced guides. But without further ado, let's jump into the video. Now, we finally got some freaking news about Overwatch 2, and it finally got submitted by community manager Andy B, and there was a whole bunch of questions that were asked, and him and the team kind of sat down. They made responses to these questions, so let's talk about them. The first question was, are there any significant changes to how supports are expected to function and feel to play in Overwatch 2? He said this, quote, "So far, we've not made a ton of changes to how the support role works in Overwatch 2. There are some meaningful changes, such as removing the stun from Brig, more on her specific rebalancing efforts in the future. However, for the most part, the playstyle of your favorite support hero should feel similar and similar to retail." Now, before we move on, Brig loses her stun. That is absolutely freaking nuts. And the title of this video is probably "The Devs Actually Buffed Tracer," because Brig has been her #1 counter matchup, and the fact that she's gonna lose her stun means that Tracer's kind of activated if she stays in her current state. Now, that means that the game's gonna feel so much different with all DPSs getting an increase in movement speed and then the supporting role getting passive heal. So the amount of fast executions are going to need to ramp up because you can't have as much attrition because these supports are going to be able to heal up very easily if they don't take damage over a certain amount of time. And with faster movement speed, the fights are going to happen a lot quicker. So not having a stun is going to matter, and that's going to be something really interesting. I'm interested to see the other characters that are created around it. Are there going to be new counter characters that really can stop the dive onslaught, which I expect to happen? Like, if you just put in the movement increase buffs right now, I think it would enable a lot more dive and rapid rush strategies. And taking away stuff like CC, while I personally like it as someone who doesn't play Brig and plays DPS, I would understand how it could be a little bit worrying for the supporting role when you're like, hey, they're coming at us. I don't know what you're gonna do about it. But hey, there's gonna be 3 or 4 more characters introduced, so who knows what that has to offer. And they also have to be careful not to make an overpowered like double CC dual support. So we'll have to wait and see. Let me know down below what you think about this change. Now, for the next question is, quote, "I'm wondering if that will affect the support's old method of self-healing. Will basic abilities like Biotic Orb, Grenade, and Regenerative Burst stay in the same Overwatch 2, or are they being altered with the new support passive in mind? As of now, we have no plans to remove self-healing with these heroes. Abilities like Regenerative Burst and Biotic Grenade remain a powerful part of their respective heroes' identities and will be tuned to account for this passive self-healing abilities also available." Now, it is important to understand that certain abilities are going to get more or less powerful because of the passive healing. Now, they do specifically say that Biotic Grenade is part of a hero's identity, which I agree with, but Regenerative Burst on Baptiste, I don't really think so. I think that that ability is kind of just like a take it or leave it type of thing. But a character like Ana actually gets greatly buffed when you think about the passive healing being added to her, because one of the worst things that you had to do sometimes on Ana is use your Biotic Grenade to self-heal, which you really didn't want to do because it was one of your best offensive and playmaking abilities, and now you're gonna have to do that almost not at all because of this passive healing. So some characters are gonna get buffed because of that, and some characters are going to get hurt because of it, even if it is a buff across the board. Now, the last question we have to talk about is, quote, "With less health bars to juggle, how does that affect single target healers in playtesting?" They said this in response, quote, "In our playtesting, having one less tank made it clear to us that tanks generally contribute much more damage than they mitigate, even on retail. Because of the drop in overall damage being dealt out, supports were actually too effective at keeping the entire team alive. So we're testing a tuned down healing output across the board to ensure that team fights still resolve in a way that doesn't feel drawn out or frustrating to play." Now, this is something extremely interesting because a lot of people thought that if you would remove a tank, all of a sudden the other tank is just going to get bullied and die. But they're saying that this is not the case even on live. If they just remove the tanks, overall, the damage would just be far less around the battlefield because the secondary tank honestly does a lot of damage. And if you think about some of the tanks that see a lot of play, someone like Sigma just spams out damage. Zarya can do more damage than the DPS easily. Roadhog. I mean, there's just so much damage being dealt out. And honestly, with 2 supports being able able to focus one tank and less damage overall, I could really see this being a problem where fights just feel like they last forever. It feels like you can't get enough focus onto that solo tank to kill him through the supports pocketing him. It's definitely an interesting thing to balance, but I really want to know your opinion about all this down below. Does this make you more excited about Overwatch 2 coming in April or May, or are you a little bit hesitant all of these different changes and how the game is going to look and feel? I want to know your opinion about that and why down below. And go to the GameLeap website if you want in-depth advanced VODs, tips and tricks on how to get to Grandmaster as quickly as you possibly can. Definitely go check it out down below. But thank you so much for coming by. Hope you enjoyed the video. I love y'all faces, and I'll see you next time.